A book beyond time. When the Quran was first revealed in the deserts of Arabia 14 centuries ago, no one could have imagined that this scripture would travel beyond sand and centuries, beyond empires and civilizations, and still remain untouched. Today, in a world of science, satellites, and supercomputers, the Quran continues to stand as a book impossible to ignore. And this is where the journey of its miracles begins. The first miracle is its preservation. Every ancient book on earth carries versions, revisions, and edited changes. But the Quran, not a single word has been lost, altered, or updated. From the time it was revealed, millions have memorized it cover to cover. Children, elders, scholars, people who don't even speak Arabic. No other book in human history has been memorized like this. No other scripture can claim a living chain of memory across 14 centuries. This alone makes the Quran unlike anything the world has ever seen. But the preservation of the Quran is only the doorway. The real experience begins with its language. Even Arabs who didn't believe in Islam were overwhelmed by its structure. Poets collapsed when they heard it. Tribes who mastered grammar and rhetoric admitted the Quran wasn't poetry, wasn't prose, wasn't song, yet it had the power of all three combined. It introduced a style the world had never seen before, one that could silence crowds and soften the toughest hearts. To this day, linguists say no human can recreate even a single surah like the Quran, not because the words are fancy, but because the balance, rhythm, imagery, and depth are beyond human creation. And then come the scientific pointers, revealed in an age when microscopes didn't exist, when no one knew about galaxies, embryos, or tectonic plates. But the Quran described the expanding universe, the protective layer of the sky, the mountains that stabilize the earth, and the stages of human development inside the womb centuries before modern science even opened its eyes. Part 1 is only the beginning of this journey, because the Quran isn't just a book to be read. It's a book to be witnessed, a book that stands unchanged, unmatched, and undeniable, calling every generation to explore its layers. Signs written in the cosmos. When we look at the night sky at stars burning millions of miles away, at galaxies spinning silently in the dark, it's easy to forget that 1400 years ago, people didn't even know what a galaxy was. They didn't know the Earth was round, or that space was expanding, or that planets followed precise orbits. But the Quran mentioned these realities long before science discovered them. The Quran describes the universe as constantly expanding. Today, the Hubble telescope confirms that galaxies are moving apart, stretching space itself. Yet this idea appeared in the Quran when humanity believed the heavens were a fixed ceiling. It wasn't philosophy. It wasn't speculation. It was a direct, confident statement far ahead of its time. Then there's the description of the sky as a protective roof. Modern science now knows that Earth's atmosphere shields us from harmful radiation, burns meteors before they hit the ground, regulates temperature, and preserves life. But in the ancient world, this protection was invisible and unimaginable. Still, the Quran described it with remarkable clarity, as if the one who created the sky was explaining how it works. And what about orbits? Today, we know every celestial body moves with precision. The Earth rotates. the moon revolves, and the sun itself travels through the galaxy. But in the past, people believed the earth was still. They believed the sun orbited around it. Yet the Quran referred to the sun and moon following their own courses, each moving in a perfect system designed for balance and order. But the most astonishing part is not just the accuracy, it's the confidence. The Quran speaks about these cosmic realities with certainty. It doesn't say, maybe. It doesn't say, possibly. It says everything. As a fact, before telescopes, before satellites, before science itself had language for these concepts. For a book revealed in the 7th century, describing the universe with such precision is not only surprising, it's miraculous. It's as if the Quran invites humanity to look deeper into creation, telling us that every star, every planet, every orbit is a sign pointing back to its creator. The miracle within the human body. If the vast universe is a sign of Allah's power, then the human body is a universe of its own, a world of microscopic miracles, hidden within every heartbeat, every breath, every drop of blood. 1400 years ago, no one knew what cells were, what DNA was, or how a baby developed inside the womb. Yet the Quran described these mysteries with breathtaking accuracy. One of the most remarkable descriptions is the development of an embryo. In the early days of medicine, people couldn't see what happened inside the womb. The world believed in myths. Some said the child formed from the father's bones. Others claimed it was shaped by the mother's blood. But the Quran revealed a detailed process, from a tiny drop to a clinging substance to a shaped form, stage by stage, exactly as modern embryology confirms today. Even more stunning is the word alaka, used in the Quran. It means something that clings, something shaped like a leech. And when scientists compared early embryos with leech-like structures, the similarity was undeniable. How could a man in the desert describe something invisible to the naked eye, something that required microscopes invented centuries later? Then there is the miracle of fingerprints. Today, we now know to fingerprints on Earth are identical 7 billion people, each with a unique identity carved into their skin. But long before forensic science existed, the Quran highlighted that Allah could reconstruct even the very tips of our fingers, a detail so precise it shocks even modern researchers. The brain and the heart are mentioned with remarkable insight as well. The Quran speaks about the hearts that understand and hearts that perceive. Today, neuroscientists recognize that the heart communicates with the brain, influences emotions, decisions, and consciousness, not in the poetic sense but in measurable electrical signals that shape human behavior. Even the circulation of blood, discovered by William Harvey in the 1600s, is referenced in the Qurans. Mention of milk being produced between blood and digestion. That knowledge was unknown in ancient history. Yet the Quran described the internal processes of the body exactly, confidently, and without error. The miracles within the human body show us something extraordinary. The one who revealed the Quran is the one who created us. He knew our beginning, our systems, our hidden biology, long before humanity discovered it. Language no human could imitate. Long before science revealed its discoveries, the people of Arabia were masters of language. Poetry was their pride, their weapon, their art, A single verse could spark a war or unite tribes. In that world where words held unimaginable power, the Quran descended, and instantly, even the greatest poets admitted, this is not human speech. What makes the Quran's language miraculous isn't just beauty, it's structure. A structure no poet, no writer, no scholar has ever been able to replicate. Arabic before the Quran had two known forms, prose and poetry. Every piece of speech fell into one of these categories. But the Quran introduced a third form, something completely new, something no one had ever heard before. Its rhythm flows like poetry, but doesn't follow poetic rules. Its sentences carry the weight of prose but move with a beauty beyond any human composition. Linguists call it unparalleled, uncopyable, and impossible to imitate. One of the most astonishing features is its precision. A single word placement can carry layers of meaning, guidance, emotion, logic, imagery all inside one sentence. Replace that word with another, and the entire meaning collapses. It's like every letter sits exactly where it belongs, as if placed by a mind that knows every nuance of language. Then comes the challenge the Quran made to humanity. Produce a chapter like it. Not a whole book, not 100 pages, just one chapter. The shortest chapter in the Quran has only 3 lines. Yet in 1400 years, with millions of poets, thinkers, linguists, and AI systems analyzing language, no one has met the challenge. Every attempt failed not because the words weren't fancy, but because the balance, flow, and depth could never be recreated. Another miracle lies in the Quran's ability to address every generation. When a Bedouin heard it, he understood its message in the simplest way. When a scholar studies it, he sees endless layers of meaning beneath the surface. It speaks to a farmer, a philosopher, a scientist, each at their level, without contradiction, and its linguistic consistency is flawless. A book revealed over 23 years through battles, peace, hardship, migration, yet its style never breaks, never shifts, never contradicts itself. No human author could maintain that perfection over decades. The Quran's language isn't just beautiful, it's impossible. A voice beyond human capacity, a speech no human tongue could craft. A book that knew history before history was written. When people think of miracles, they often imagine the future prophecies, predictions, things that haven't happened yet. But the Quran performs another equally powerful miracle. It reveals hidden history, events no one at the time could have known, civilizations forgotten beneath the sand, stories of ancient nations that only modern archaeology has confirmed. Take the story of Pharaoh. For centuries, people believed his body disappeared in the Red Sea, but the Quran declared with absolute certainty that his body would be preserved as a sign for future generations. At the time, this seemed impossible. Yet today, the mummy of the pharaoh, believed to be Ramesses II, remains preserved in a museum, exactly as the Quran said. Then there is the story of the people of Od. Before, modern explorers found their buried city in the empty quarter desert. Many doubted they ever existed. Yet the Quran described their colossal pillars, their arrogant power, and their destruction. These details were unknown in recorded history until the ruins of Iram, the city of pillars, were discovered in satellite images. The Quran's descriptions matched perfectly. The Quran also mentioned that the Romans would face defeat, but then soon achieve victory. When this verse was revealed, Rome was collapsing. People laughed at the prediction, but a few years later, the Roman Empire made a stunning comeback, exactly as the Quran foretold. Another incredible example is the mention of Haman, a close associate of Pharaoh. For centuries, historians believed this name never existed in Egyptian records. But when hieroglyphs were finally decoded, the name HMN appeared connected to temple construction, just as the Quran describes, something no one in the 7th century could have known. The Quran even described the construction techniques of ancient civilizations. It mentioned baked bricks used by Pharaoh while the Bible claimed he used stone. Today, archaeology confirms the Quran's version. Egyptians used clay bricks, not carved stone. These revelations show something astonishing. The Quran isn't just a religious book. It's a record of forgotten truths, a lens into history long before historians wrote it, a map of civilizations humanity had yet to rediscover. The Quran didn't guess history, it revealed it. And every revelation became evidence that this book comes from the one who knows the secrets of the past, present, and promises written before the future arrived. If the Quran's historical accuracy stuns the mind, its prophecies clear, direct, and fulfilled leave no room for doubt. These aren't vague predictions or poetic hints. They are precise statements about events that seemed impossible at the time, yet unfolded exactly as the Quran declared. One of the most extraordinary prophecies is the rise of Islam itself. When the early Muslims were persecuted, outnumbered, and pushed out of their homeland, the Quran promised something unimaginable, that this small, oppressed group would one day rise in power, that Islam would spread to every corner of the world, that the message would reach people of every nation and language. At that moment, the Muslims had no land, no army, no political influence. They were hiding in caves, walking through deserts to survive. But within a single generation, the prediction became reality. Islam spread across continents, and today it is one of the largest faiths on earth, exactly as the Quran said. The Quran also foretold that Abu Lahab, one of the Prophet's fiercest enemies, would never accept Islam, a dangerous claim because if he simply pretended to believe, the verse would be proven false. But he never accepted the message, fulfilling the prophecy word for word. Another prophecy describes the protection of the Quran itself. The scripture declares that it will be preserved forever, guarded by the Creator. Every other ancient text changed, eroded, or vanished. Yet the Quran remained untouched, memorized by millions, written meticulously, recited flawlessly. The prophecy stands fulfilled every single day. The Quran also predicted the spread of alcohol and gambling in the end times, along with widespread immorality, broken families, and global corruption. Today, these trends dominate societies in ways unimaginable centuries ago. And then there are prophecies about human behavior. People chasing materialism, leaders being dishonest, tall buildings rising in desert lands, technology shrinking the world until communication becomes instantaneous. These aren't guesses, they are realities of our time. The most powerful aspect of Quranic prophecy is not just accuracy, but timing. Every prophecy was revealed when the opposite seemed true. When defeat looked certain, it promised victory. When faith looked fragile, it promised global influence. When enemies appeared unstoppable, it promised their downfall. The Quran doesn't predict the future, it reveals it. Because the one who sent it is not bound by time, he sees tomorrow as clearly as today. A book that speaks to every soul. The miracles of the Quran are not limited to science, history, or prophecies. One of its greatest miracles is something far deeper: its power to reach the human heart. No matter the language, culture, age, or background, the Quran speaks directly to the soul in a way no other book can. This emotional and spiritual impact is itself a sign that the Quran is not just information, it is revelation. The Quran addresses every kind of person. The thinker who seeks logic finds arguments sharper than philosophy. The broken-hearted find comfort stronger than medicine. The lost find direction. The guilty find forgiveness. The strong find humility. The arrogant find truth staring back at them. What makes this so miraculous is that the Quran speaks as if it knows every human situation. The sadness you hide, the fear you bury, the question you've been asking. Silently, its verses answer them in ways that feel personal. Many people describe the same feeling. It felt like the Quran was talking directly to me. The impact goes beyond emotion, it changes behavior. People who were addicted, angry, selfish, or hopeless found their entire personalities transformed simply by connecting with the Quran. Criminals turned righteous. Haters became compassionate. People who had everything felt empty until they read it. People who had nothing felt rich after understanding it. This power to transform hearts across centuries and continents is something no ordinary book can achieve. Another miracle is how the Quran balances fear and hope. In one verse, it warns the soul about consequences. In the next, it lifts the same soul with mercy, reminding it that mistakes are not the end. This balance is so perfect that it shapes believers into emotionally stable, spiritually strong human beings. And the guidance isn't vague, it's clear, direct, and practical. It teaches how to speak, how to think, how to treat parents, how to manage anger, how to handle money, how to build families, how to improve character, and how to live with purpose. A book from the 7th century, guiding modern minds with this level of relevance is itself a miracle. The Quran doesn't just inform the reader, it reforms them. It doesn't just speak, it heals. It doesn't just inspire, it transforms. A book that changes the heart of every person who sincerely approaches it is not a book of this world. A perfect balance, a system too advanced for its time. One of the most overlooked miracles of the Quran is the system it introduced: social, moral, legal, and economic guidance, so balanced, so precise, that even today's advanced societies struggle to achieve anything close to it. 14 centuries ago, the world was divided by tribalism, class systems, slavery, corruption, and injustice. In that world, the Quran introduced a structure that was centuries ahead of human civilization. Start with justice. The Quran didn't just speak about fairness, it built an entire framework to protect the weak, limit the powerful, and ensure accountability. It commanded justice, even if it goes against your own family or your own interest. principle unheard of in tribal Arabia. Today, modern legal systems echo these same values, yet none match the Quran's clarity or moral grounding. Then there's the economic system. The Quran outlawed interest at a time when the world depended on it. Centuries later, economists discovered the devastating effects of high-interest societies' debt, slavery, inflation cycles, financial collapse. Islamic finance, based on Quranic principles, is now one of the fastest-growing sectors worldwide. Its foundation is simple. Money should serve people, not enslave them. The Quran also introduced moral balance. It didn't demand extreme asceticism, nor did it promote uncontrolled desire. Instead, it taught moderation. Eat, but don't be excessive. Work, but don't forget your soul. Love this world, but don't lose sight of the next. This balanced lifestyle is now considered by psychologists as the healthiest approach to human well-being. Family structure is another miracle. While ancient civilizations neglected women's rights, the Quran elevated them, giving them inheritance, financial independence, dignity, and social respect. It protected children, honored parents, and strengthened the bond of marriage. These values are now seen as the backbone of stable societies, but the Quran taught them long before social science existed. And then comes the moral code: truthfulness, patience, generosity, humility, purity, responsibility. These aren't just teachings. They are tools for building strong societies and mentally healthy individuals. In an age of mental stress, broken families, and loneliness, these values feel more essential than ever. But the real miracle? The system is complete. Nothing contradicts. Nothing collapses. Every teaching supports another, like perfectly aligned pieces of a divine blueprint. 1400 years ago, humanity was not ready for a system this advanced. Yet the Quran delivered it anyway, because it came not from humans, but from the one who created humans. Protected from corruption, the miracle of preservation. Every ancient scripture on earth has suffered the same fate written, edited, translated inaccurately, or lost entirely. Empires changed texts to fit their politics. Priests modified verses to suit their agendas. Languages evolved and meanings disappeared. But the Quran stands alone as the only book in history that remained untouched, unaltered, and perfectly preserved from the moment it was revealed. How is that possible? First, the Quran wasn't preserved by paper, it was preserved by people. From the very first day, believers memorized it word for word. Not just scholars, but children, farmers, travelers, soldiers, and merchants. Even today, more than 10 million people worldwide have memorized the Quran in its entirety. A book of 600 pages, memorized exactly, letter for letter, something no other community has accomplished with any book. Second, the Quran was written down during the lifetime of the Prophet and compiled with strict accuracy shortly after. The scribes who wrote it were not random writers, they were people who had memorized it perfectly. Every written verse had to match the oral recitation of multiple companions. Nothing was allowed unless it was confirmed by both memory and written evidence. This dual preservation, written and memorized, is something no other scripture ever achieved. Third, the Quran's recitation is itself a miracle of preservation. Every syllable, every elongation, Every pause is transmitted through generations with exact precision. People in Africa, Asia, America, and Europe recite the Quran in the exact same way despite speaking completely different languages. No matter where you go, the sound of the Quran is identical. That level of standardized recitation is unmatched in human history. And then there's the structure. The Quran challenges corruption by design. Change one letter and the rhythm breaks. Add one word and the pattern collapses. Remove a verse and thousands of memorizers detect it instantly. The Quran is self-protecting, like a lock that exposes every attempt to tamper with it. Even more astonishing, modern computer analysis shows a deep, mathematical coherence in the Quran-balanced word counts, patterns, and structures that cannot survive alteration. If even one verse were changed, the entire system would break. For 14 centuries, empires rose and fell. Languages evolved. Cultures vanished. But the Quran remained the same letter for letter, sound for sound. Not preserved by chance, preserved by design. Preserved because it is divine. The living miracle, a book that never stops revealing itself. After exploring its science, its history, its language, its prophecies, its preservation, and its power over the human heart, we arrive at the final and greatest reality of all. The Quran is not just a book of the past, it's a living miracle. A miracle that continues to unfold, generation after generation, revealing new depths as humanity advances. What makes the Quran truly extraordinary is its timelessness. Every age discovers something new within its verses. When knowledge was limited, people marveled at its language. When civilizations rose, they marveled at its justice. When science advanced, they found reflections of the natural world within its words. When the world became spiritually empty, people turned to its emotional healing. And in the age of information, when everything is questioned, the Quran stands stronger than ever, unchanged and unchangeable. Another miracle is its adaptability. The Quran speaks to the scholar and the shepherd, the child and the elder, the believer and the skeptic. One verse can inspire a philosopher and comfort a widow. One chapter can transform a hardened criminal and strengthen a struggling heart. No matter where someone is in life, the Quran meets them exactly there. The Quran also creates unity on a scale unmatched by anything else. Millions recite the same words every single day, in the same way, with the same pronunciation. When a verse is recited anywhere on earth, every Muslim recognizes it instantly. In a world divided by race, nationality, and politics, this unity itself is a miracle. And then there is its emotional impact. Countless people say they felt something the moment they heard it. Peace, clarity, a shiver, a pull, something beyond explanation, something you don't feel with any other book, lecture, or speech. That feeling is not poetry. It's not psychology. It is the effect of divine revelation on the human soul. But perhaps the greatest proof is this. The Quran has changed the world more than any book in history. Yet it asks for nothing but reflection. Will you not think? It asks. Will you not reflect? Will you not understand? It challenges humanity not through force, but through truth. The Quran is not a miracle you read once. It is a miracle that grows with you. A miracle that never stops revealing itself. A miracle that continues alive, powerful, and undeniable.